Welcome to Framework and the completion, the finale of the Nolan-oscopy. This is John, one of the hosts of Framework, joined as always by the other host of Framework, Al. How are you doing, Al?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Although, is this the end of the Nolan-oscopy? We're gonna do like a, we gotta do a rankings and recap. That's like how we cap them all off.
Yes, we of course will do that. That's more of a coda, an epilogue, if you will. This is the final film of Christopher Nolan, or well, the to this date.
All right, R.I.P. Christopher Nolan. Sorry to break the news to you this way, but we've been to the future. We know what's going on.
We will come back. We'll come back for Oppenheimer. You know, we're interested in seeing how that develops, of course. But as of now, the last film he has made is, of course, Tenet. And joining us to talk about Tenet, Brad Lohan. How are you, Brad?
I'm good. I'm actually inverted right now.
Oh.
So I'm wearing my oxygen mask, and I'm very disoriented. I'm also driving a car and using my GPS at the same time. So, yeah, I'm good to go.
The most harrowing part of this movie. Watching him on his phone as he drives backwards through time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tenet is an interesting film. There's certainly a lot of things that happened with Tenet in the real world, outside of just the film itself, having to do with the pandemic and theaters and Nolan's general personality coming out in a way that it never had before. But I don't know. Is any of that as interesting as what the hell this film is on its own terms? What a weird movie. What a strange film for a director to make.
I have maybe an odd response to the question you just posed there.
Yeah.
In that that stuff about like Nolan in the real world might be more interesting than what this movie is all about. However, I don't think it's very interesting at all. I just think that, Nolan's stance on movies is not that interesting to me. Like, yeah, he likes theaters. Great.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he's rich and powerful enough to like stem the tide there for like another 2 months, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I also think what this movie is about is not interesting to me at all. The time travel stuff just could care less. Can't sort it out. Don't have any inclination to.
Oh, you've had the Tenet experience then. Okay, great.
Yeah, I like the idea that like the future is so mad at us that they invented time travel just to destroy us.
It's kind of cute.
No, did I give it away? Are we supposed to go into spoiler territory?
No. We assume everyone's seen Tenet if they listen to this. Yeah. We have to. No, my favorite thing about this movie is Branagh's insane plan. It's so funny. It is a hilarious supervillain plan, and he's like, "No, fuck it, everything dies, everything all at once, just with me, it all goes down." That's very funny.
That's your bog standard Russian oligarch for you. Because that's the thing. He must have known what was coming, and he's just like, "Okay, I'm going to cash in my chips now."
My understanding is he's taking out the past as well, right? Like it's all existence. All of it.
Everything.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, move over Thanos.
Yeah.
He is out Thanosing Thanos. But is it his plan, or is it a plan that he was delivered to him from the future? And he's just going along with?
I believe he's just a dick who figured out how to do it. I think he's pissed off that he has cancer, and he's like, you know what? Fuck everyone. I think I'm going to kill every single person. And I think that's his plan. And I like that. That's what I want from him. I don't know. Is there more to it than that? Is there weird future tech involvement that I don't fully understand because of the way this movie is? Possibly, because it's an incredibly confusing and difficult film to parse.
I think I understand the entire movie. I've watched it like 30 times. When I first got it on Blu-ray, I watched it. I would fall asleep to it every single night. I got to a point where I started to get nervous about like having to wean myself off the movie and if I'd be able to do anything after having done that, if my personality would remain intact. And I'm pleased to report that it hasn't. Since I stopped watching Tenet every day, I've been a completely different person.
Are you more of an oligarch now?
I think so. Uh, I've begun collecting counterfeit Goyas and
Oh my god,
and
we're
super
gonna
rad.
we're gonna have to talk about counterfeit Goyas for quite a while coming up. But
Yeah, what a
I
terrifically complicated art con thrown into this movie for no reason.
I thought that I had a handle on basically what this movie was doing, and then in the first 3 or 4 minutes of this podcast, I now have like 3 new questions. I'm like, yeah, wait, why is he trying to destroy the whole world? Like, I understood why he wanted to kill himself, but like, and
Just a dick. I think that's it. I think he's just a dick. That's it.
initially he was getting messages from the future, and he was sort of going along with it because the messages from the future also allowed him to like amass wealth and power. But when he gets to the point of like, now I'm just going to off myself. Like, why is he still helping the future destroy the past at that point? Does he feel like indebted to the future people who he's never met? Like,
I
that's
think
where
so,
he's.
yeah, because they're the ones that made him who he is. Like he found all that money when he was cleaning up his devastated town that he lived in, the Stalsk 12, I think it was called, which was like off the grid, but it blew up. And then they were digging for plutonium, and he found part of the algorithm. And yeah, it's all pretty straightforward. Uh, you only have to watch it 24 times before it starts to sink in. But once it sinks in, it's like, oh yeah, I see it. I see the matrix.
I only watched it twice, and I thought that I had sorted out the main points, but there's still a lot, even stuff that's not related to time travel, that is just so convoluted. Like the fake Goya stuff is so convoluted for reasons that is like I don't see the real narrative
Well,
purpose of
the
some of this stuff.
reason why that exists is twofold. One, it's to bring in Elizabeth Debicki's character into the story, and the other
No other
reason
way to
is
do
when
that.
they, yeah, the only way.
How you gonna do it without that
But-
complicated art con?
But then when they're going to steal the art, that's when they discover the turnstile, and then that draws him into that whole realm of the temporal pincer movements and that commando team led by
Oh
Kick-Ass.
yeah. Look,
Yeah.
that part, that stuff I get. Like, what that we need to have that heist and some question, but like setting up that heist, does it? They have to be stealing a fake of this thing that she did off screen with somebody else who we never meet, but she had an affair with or some shit. Like, it's just all these curly.
Oh yeah,
things in there
it's great that they like
in the
break
setup.
in to steal the fake instead of
Right.
breaking in to
God
steal
damn
the
this movie.
authentic and replace it with a fake, and then they replace it with another fake that has been
But
faked out by
Yeah, because he knew.
Yeah.
In the future. Yeah.
because he has all
the
this
process,
intel.
in the process of trying to steal a fake drawing, they like commit the crime of the century, like
Yeah.
dumping $7 billion in gold bullion onto the runway of an Oslo airport before crashing a jumbo jet into the side of
I
the,
mean,
and
that's like they
that's the
out Fast
distraction
and
to
the
get to the
Furious.
phony drawing. Like, what? And why does he need this phony drawing? To get an introduction to the oligarch.
Yeah, it's
There's no other way to get this guy's attention.
it's hard
You
to
gotta
make
go
an
through his wife.
appointment with these guys unless you're stealing $7 million fake paintings from them.
Yeah.
I mean,
And this is all introduced like it just Michael Caine sitting at a table explaining it without seeing the people too. Like that is
Yeah.
This whole he's like 5 minutes of him just telling you who these major characters are. You don't even get like a dossier picture of either of them.
yeah.
This is
Okay. You know
infuriating.
what, let's go through the turnstile. Rewind. Opening sequence. All right. I love how just this movie is just so immediately incoherent.
Yes.
Like,
This
we're
opening.
at this opera house, and there's a terrorist attack on this opera house, right? But that terrorist attack is actually a cover operation for taking out this one like undercover spy that's there. And so, but there's also like real cops going to fight off the fake terrorist attack, but there's also fake cops embedded with those real cops, and they are there to extract that undercover guy. And we don't know who the hero is yet, and he doesn't know who the spy is who he's trying to look for. He's not sure. And everybody's wearing full body armor, and there's masks obscuring everybody's face and voices. And I think the Russian general from GoldenEye is in there.
Yeah.
Is that, maybe he's on the terrorist side, but
Maybe.
he's in uniform, and none of them are. I don't, and we never get a name.
Oh yeah, the guys that brought guns to the symphony.
Like, just total incoherence.
This is why you have to watch it 30 times.
I hate that. I hate that you did that, Brad. I'm sorry. I just that makes me so
It
unhappy.
was year 2 of the pandemic. I was trying to find a coping strategy, and
I'm going to solve this goddamn thing come hell or high water. Yeah. can see
It was,
that.
it was the only closure I had over the past 2 years.
Okay, now we can let's jump forward a little bit now to Michael Caine. And
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about the unlicensed dentistry in the movie?
Right.
No, not right now. I want to continue with this train of thought about just how absurdly convoluted just like the first 30 minutes of this movie are. And like, this is a pretty long movie. It's not punishingly long. It's but 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And like, you can cut some stuff out of this because like,
Sure,
we all love Michael Caine here, right? But Michael Caine, like Sir Michael Caine, get the fuck out of this movie. You have no right to be here. Like, you add nothing to this movie except for length. You can have Washington just get briefed on the boat by the guy who's sort of like the M. If this is a James Bond movie essentially, right? So
yeah, totally.
He has this briefing with M on the boat, who sort of gives him a little bit to go on, sends him to go see Q, right? And that's the lady from Goblet of Fire,
Right?
Mrs. X or Dr. Exposition.
Yeah, but combine these exposition scenes. He can just like. So okay, Q lady tells him about inversion, and he sets up. He's going to track a bullet. He's going to track that bullet to Mumbai, right? And there he can confront this arms dealer. Except that arms dealer is actually just a phony arms dealer, and it's the wife behind him who's actually the real one he's looking for. Except she just sold bullets to Kenneth Branagh, right? And they were normal bullets. It doesn't even matter. So now he met up with that arms dealer, so you can tell him you got to go track down this other arms dealer over in London, right? But to get to that arms dealer, you got to go through Michael Caine. Michael Caine's going to tell you how to get to that arms dealer. You actually have to go through his wife, Elizabeth Debicki, right? And she's got a side quest where you got to go commit that crime of the century and drop it out. And I'm like, or hear me out. Don't do any of that shit. Just none of it. You fold the guy on the boat and the scientist into the same person. They brief him about the basics of Tenet, and they say, you got to go find Andre Sator, and he's off to the races. And him and Pattinson can do like the reverse bungee jump up the building when they're trying to meet with Andre Sator, because that shit's fucking awesome.
The reverse bungee jump is great.
Yeah. I'd run into Elizabeth Debicki up there. He's not home. Elizabeth Debicki's there, and now they're off. And you cut like 20 minutes out of this movie, and it's the most pointlessly confusing stuff that is not even important to what's going on later.
Yeah, I don't understand so many choices.
Yes.
This is such a challenge to follow, and the way that the sound is mixed, the way the dialogue is written, none of this helps. You got people in masks half the time. You got with breathing apparatus, and the dialogue is just cut to the bone, terse. You are like hanging on every word. Like, what did you just say? What are you talking about now? Which side are you on? Like, every interaction in this is like that. And, you get a sense of it by the end because it's really not that complicated of a plot. Ultimately, it's just obscured and difficult. And it, there's a lot of concepts that seem difficult, like inversion, but actually they're not really. They're just not explained particularly clearly. And that's the whole experience of this. And on top of this, this meta bullshit. I know you have less tolerance for meta than I do, Al, but yes. This is the most infuriating meta bullshit I can think of, honestly. The protagonist.
Even just naming him the protagonist
for no fucking reason. For no godly reason.
I sort of think that like the WGA has like its own CIA within it, and that's what he works for. That's why they call him the protagonist.
It makes no goddamn sense. It adds nothing to the movie, and all it does is kind of put like quotations on everything. It's just like it's kind of it's a James Bond bullshit. You get it, right? It doesn't really matter, right? None of this matters, right? That's what it says to me. Every single scene that comes up, and they give him.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Nolan, look, you want to fuck around and have 3 timelines running over each other in every single scene and have all the major dialogue delivered through gas masks and scuba gear, like, fine. But naming the main character the protagonist, I'm afraid you simply must fuck off with this.
It could have been a placeholder name, and they forgot.
Feels like it. Because there's no point. There's no point to this meta. It's not about anything except maybe this doesn't matter. Maybe this is pointless. Movies are pointless, right? That's what it feels like. And
it's not even that the protagonist is a blank slate.
No,
like he's got personality, like not deep characterization, but he's got personality enough that like he feels like an individual and not like the driver in Drive, even.
Right. That would be the good version of this. But like the thing is, like, why also are you casting an unknown act, not unknown, but like this is clearly his audition, John David Washington's audition to be an A-list star. He has to prove himself here. This is the exact wrong person to cast if you're going to do this protagonist bullshit. It should be somebody like Tom Cruise. It should be somebody who is sort of a blank, kind of like, well, I'm an action hero guy. John David Washington is trying to prove that he can carry a $200 million film in this. He's working his ass off to carry this.
Yeah, he beats up a guy with a cheese grater, which I've never seen in a movie before.
And that's cool as shit.
Yes, that kitchen fight's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of good action scenes in this that are just sort of isolated and good on their own. There's some.
I'm not sure if I fully agree with you there. Like, I see what you're saying, that it does put the actor sort of at odds with the script in a way.
Yeah.
Like what his incentives are wrong, but also like maybe an unknown is what you want for that blank slate. It doesn't matter because that's not what the character is.
It doesn't work.
That's 100%.
Yeah. And he gets blown off the screen by Robert Pattinson, who has a character to play.
Oh, I disagreed there. I think Pattinson's great, but I think I'm really, really impressed with Washington.
Yeah, I thought they were both great.
Yeah,
but
the problem I think is what you were getting at earlier, that this layer of abstraction that this puts over everything, it's not even like in Inception. That is to an allegorical point.
Yes, it's great in Inception. It works in Inception.
It's the meta-ness of Inception makes it a subtext about movies.
Yes.
The subtext of this and like the weirdness of how Tenet is, like the big subtext here is that, the entire Tenet program is one big temporal pincer movement, which, okay, sure, whatever. That doesn't mean anything in the real world, the way that, like, Inception's allegory about the process of filmmaking, or like even the Prestige's meta stuff about like how narrative misdirection works and twists. Like, this is how you construct a twist so that the audience doesn't get mad at you, but like likes it. And Inception makes that about smuggling themes. This is about smuggling fake Goya paintings, and none of it has a thematic underpinning to it. So it doesn't matter. No. The whole time travel gimmick doesn't add anything to this movie. A couple of cool shots, but really, like, the backwards action scenes don't even like look that different to me, or any cooler than a forwards action scene.
Oh, you don't think when he fights himself that's kind of like, wow, I've not quite seen
it's a pretty good fight scene.
The sound design and the score in the two versions of that scene that they show are just amazing to me, because that's one thing I like about the movie is it will show you something happening forwards, and then it will show you what happens in reverse, like with the interrogation scene where Sator is trying to get information from the protagonist. Sator's inverted and the protagonist is moving forward, and you see that scene twice and you hear the dialogue exchange twice, but in different contexts. And that's something that I really like about this movie is like, we have that car chase twice, we have the protagonist fighting himself twice, but neither time neither point of view is the same. So you get like a different sense of how those scenes flow when you see them, forward and then reversed.
I do think that is a good idea. The entire premise of the inversion is cool. When the structure of the film is, you're going to do the film one way, and then he's going to go backwards through the film. That's a really cool idea. I mean, I think they do like a B- job of it, I think, in this.
Yeah.
Like some of it's
Fury
cool.
Road did it better.
Yeah. I mean, there's other versions. It's a neat hook. It's a neat thing to build a script around. But I don't think they totally executed it very well. And there's so much other bullshit to make me mad during it. And a big problem for me is the big temporal pincer action sequence at the end. I don't know what their goals are. I don't know what they're trying to do. I mean, I'm looking at...
You don't know who their opponents are?
No idea. I guess they're Sator's guys, I guess.
You don't even know where they are. Like, people are just firing guns off screen, and you can't, like...
Wasteland,
yeah.
And okay, so there's some backwards explosions. Okay, got it.
Those look pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
Those were dope, where the guy gets pulled into the wall, or the protagonist runs over that piece of rubble, and then the rubble flies back into the building. Amazing.
Yeah, when the building explodes back together. That's fucking awesome.
It's fun. But here's the thing. Like, I remember when Inception came out, and and then a few years later, Doctor Strange came out and did Inception stuff. And also, at the end, they do a very big backward time action sequence that now Tenet does. And I can't say that it does it better than Doctor Strange did it, and however many years ago. It's a weird kind of conversation Christopher Nolan is having with the Doctor Strange movie. I don't know. I don't think you get really any great sequences out of this, except maybe the kitchen fight, just because John David Washington is very good at kicking ass in it, and there's some good ones. There's some good ones. The car scene is good, and it also does. I'm just bullet pointing things that piss me off about this movie now. Another thing that really pisses me off is they put it in your mind that the same cells can occupy the same space, or things or it goes bad, like in Time Cop, and they never pay it off.
That's frustrating.
Yes, it's very frustrating. It's a movie of frustrations. Goddamn Tenet.
Show us that. Show us just an explosion happening. I mean, you want Kenneth Branagh to get killed by merging his two selves and like having him become a
like in Time Cop. Yes. Yeah.
I think that the villain's kill switch is a lot like Martin Sheen's in Spawn, where if you stop his heart, he'll cover the earth in some sort of Heat 16 plague. That's what it was called. So it is kind of funny that it's like you're talking about Doctor Strange, and it's like, oh no, this movie also was influenced by 1997 movie Spawn. Which in my mind, 2 thumbs up for me. But
man, I should watch Spawn again.
Everyone should.
Should I watch Spawn again?
John, there's another thing that you're talking about that sets stuff up that doesn't pay off. You're right, and there's stuff that I think is pointless. Like Clemens Posey in the beginning, the Q scientist says like, oh, you almost got shot by a backwards bullet. Like that would be real bad.
Yeah,
I never understood what. How is a backwards bullet any more dangerous than a regular bullet? And aren't regular bullets dangerous enough?
The entrance wound becomes the exit wound.
But yeah, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, you just you're flipping it. I guess. I mean, you still have an entrance wound and an exit wound.
Yeah, it seems like the scene where she's dropping all that exposition and she's like, we're trying to prevent World War III, and the protagonist is like, nuclear holocaust, and she's like, no, something worse. Like that's a total like movie trailer dialogue exchange.
I like that. That's fun.
That part I get.
Yeah.
Okay, the annihilation of all of space time is worse than nuclear war. I'll give them that. But a bullet going through me like back to front instead of front to back seems like a wash, in my expert medical opinion.
Yeah, I think getting shot is going to ruin at least your afternoon, if not your week, regardless. But I'm willing to go with them on that premise because that justifies them having to take Elizabeth Debicki backwards through the inversion thing and then redo the art heist, but as first responders taking her through the turnstile in the past to fix her up, and then leave her with that gnarly scar that she shows to Sator at the end.
The other thing that I think it sets up that doesn't amount to much is if you're running backwards, then fire doesn't burn you; it freezes you. And
cool idea.
I think it raises more questions than it's worth.
Yeah, that was one where I was like, well, I'm going to take your word for it, movie.
I don't care why that's true. If that's true, okay. It raises the question: why does Kenneth Branagh, then, who is the expert on inversion in this world, why does he think burning him to death is a viable option? He
didn't get debriefed by exposition lady. He didn't get to shoot holes into the wall where actually the bullets were going back into the gun. So he didn't have any of that info down. So
I thought he had more info than anybody else about inversion. But okay, but also like, why does being flash frozen, isn't that just as bad as being flash fried? Like
they do say
like the temperature is running in the other direction, but doesn't the temperature still get up to whatever it is when you're engulfed in fire? Like,
well, he's wearing a seatbelt, and he
fire
has,
is. Yeah.
All right, never mind. Asked and answered. He's wearing a seatbelt. That's as good an explanation as I get from this movie, and that's fine.
I mean, I don't know. We've been ranting pretty hard here. I mean,
I know. I'm like sweating profusely.
I know. I exhausted myself trying to run through that first 30 minutes just in like terms of plot beat by plot beat.
But you're not wrong. It's infuriating.
It's not time travel complicated. It's just complicated to no end. But let me throw a plot twist at you here, John.
Yeah.
I agree with all these complaints you've been throwing out here. I kind of love this movie.
Love.
Wow.
Well, I like it a lot.
I didn't expect that.
No, with all the bad things.
Well,
That is
it doesn't make any sense. But here's the thing: like, I think John David Washington is great in this movie. I think Robert Pattinson is great in this movie. The action sequences are awesome, and if you actually removed all the time travel bullshit, this would be like up there with one of my favorite Nolan movies. If they were just actually chasing nuclear material and fake Goya paintings, I guess, and you were just like, these guys are just running around broing out doing like late game GTA heists. I'm loving that shit. It's great. It's when they start having to run through it all backwards again. I'm like, well, I don't think this adds up. It doesn't like look like anything to me visually. I don't really care about that stuff. But when they're jumping up the side of buildings and hanging off of fire trucks on the highway,
yeah, that was great.
That's fucking awesome.
Well,
I love this stuff. Crashing that plane.
There's some good James Bond action scenes in this. Like the stuff where he's just doing a James Bond movie is entertaining. I didn't hate this movie the second time I watched it because I knew what it was and I knew what the massive problems I have with it are and what its aims are and how it's not going to satisfy me in many ways. So I was able to kind of just watch it and know where it was going and appreciate the small moments, isolated moments, the good things in it, the craft that is going into it, the performances, things like that. It's still the worst Nolan film. But I get what you mean, but no, I can't get with this, man. I can't. It's the protagonist thing in particular just kills the movie for me. It just makes me so mad.
If his name was like Larry, you'd be like, this movie's 10 times better.
Just make him called Mr. Smith, and it's like a covered identity, and nobody knows his real name, and that's fucking fine. But we don't have to just say
that gets you everything that calling him the protagonist does. That gets you every single thing without making the movie about nothing, like that, which is what it does. Which that's why I really get mad at this thing. Is that aspect to it? The action movie bullshit. The Kenneth Branagh performance, all that stuff, functions as a silly Bond movie, and I can enjoy that in isolation. Well, that's all fine.
I feel
good sometimes.
I feel your pain here, John, because we went through some of this in reverse with Interstellar, where that to me is a movie where there's like a little bit of bullshit at the foundation of that movie that kind of ruins my ability to experience the rest of it the way it's supposed to. And here there's a lot more bullshit, but for some reason, like the action movie elements of this just lift right out of the bullshit much more smoothly for me. And I can just have fun with those guys running around shooting guns, kicking ass in kitchens. Like, I mean, let's talk about the cast a little bit. Like, I think the cast is great. I think John David Washington makes a really strong James Bond figure. I can't believe he's not a star already. I guess he was. I didn't even know.
Star now, I think. I think this.
I didn't even know he was Denzel Washington's son when I went into this. I knew he was a former football player, but that was it.
Yeah,
but
he has it. Yeah. He has what Denzel has.
He sounds like Denzel Washington. He runs like Tom Cruise. Like that's
he looks great. Look, where's the hell out of a suit? Denzel did a lot better a job of bringing his child into movie stardom than Will Smith did.
I wonder if he had Denzel's contractual obligation where he could keep all of his wardrobe after filming wraps. That's something that Denzel used to have.
Good movie to have that contract. Everyone looks fantastic.
It sounds like some Burt Reynolds shit.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds got to keep that hat from Smokey and the Bandit.
I'm sure he did.
But I really think he's great. I think
I see him in another movie right away. I don't think he's at all the problem here.
Is Marvel still saying that they're just not? Is Marvel still saying they're just not going to recast Black Panther? Because, are you sure?
Yeah,
that's a longer conversation. Yeah. I think they probably should have, but yeah, I don't think they could have.
He can run and punch like nobody's business. And then Pattinson is fucking great in this.
Yeah, I really love him in this. I think he's awesome in this.
Yeah, he's having a lot of fun because he knows he doesn't have to be the main hero. So
the pressure's kind of off him.
Yeah,
he's best when he's the guy on the side. I think. He's really good in some stuff like Good Time, but in movies like this, he kind of draws the eye. I think he's doing shit. He's fascinating in this, And yeah, he's playing a reveal, which is pretty easy to get ahead of, frankly. But
well, that's a sidebar. You know what? Let's bookmark reveals
Yeah.
for once we get to the rest of the cast here, because that's a whole thing.
Right.
Pattinson's an interesting guy. Like, I'm looking forward to his like middle-aged character actor phase, because this really became apparent to me in the Batman, especially. But I saw it here occasionally. He is like that Seinfeld girlfriend, where that is beautiful and hideous in different lights. Like, from certain angles, he's the most handsome man in the world, and then from certain angles, he is like an uglier version of Michael Shannon, which is
I can relate to that.
like there's an ogreish part that they like. If you frame him properly, he can look monstrous. It's interesting. But
That'll
that
be
doesn't
fun
come
for
into play
him.
in this movie.
That will be
Yeah.
fun for him later. Yeah.
That's more of a Batman thing than a Tenet thing, though. But he and Washington are great, I think, as buddies in this, and seeing them just like plan and execute their heists. I want 2 hours of that.
Oh yeah,
without the
that was when they're planning the plane, crashing the plane into the free ports, and they bring in that other guy, and there's that great scene where the camera's just moving around all three of them, having a conversation about like the pros and cons of the caper. Nolan does a similar type of shot in The Dark Knight when Batman and
on the
Harvey,
roof.
yeah, and I think that I really like Nolan's style in this movie. The way that he shoots the movie, he holds on fight scenes longer. He has so many great like sweeping shots of like the super yacht, and all those shots of like Italy and.
Oh, there are probably 70% more boats in this movie than it needs, but every shot, like the shots of the boats, look fucking great.
Have you done the math?
Yeah. You could cut out 70% of the boats and still have enough boat.
Oh, speaking of free ports, remember when the movie stops cold for 5 minutes to make sure you understand what a free port is, and then it doesn't matter
absolutely.
at all? Yeah.
No, it matters. I mean, because we revisit that a couple of times, that whole heist. Look, it's a complicated concept. No, it's a highly secure facility in an airport. Like, okay, that's all we really need. But that heist is great. I love that stuff. I've heard some people talking about like, oh, this is Nolan's Bond movie. Like, that's definitely true. It's a Bond movie with a bunch of extra sci-fi shit poured on top of it. And that like this also shows that you could have a black James Bond. And I think John D. Washington kind of pulls that off pretty well. However, what it showed me is like, oh, I think I see the next James Bond in here, but I think it should be Hamish Patel, the third guy in that. He's really
good. Like he's like when he's undercover on the plane, he's like, I've only got vegetarian. Do you guys like vegetarian? That one looks like.
And he just brings up the chloroform so smoothly.
Yeah. That was great.
And he's so nonchalant about just like, yeah, plane, it'll be mostly empty. What's the big deal? Like,
oh yeah, we could just pop the doors and chuck them out the side. And one thing I like is that his partner in that scene like actually steals one of the gold bricks.
Yeah, and he gets beaten to death with it. Oh no, wait,
no,
the guy gets beaten to death later. It's a different guy.
There's a little bit of gold brick foo in the movie. There's cheese grater foo. There's gold brick foo. Joe Bob Briggs would have a field day.
Yeah,
I mean, Hamish Patel is great in Station 11 too. What we talked about in passing on our Shakespeare episode a while back, but totally different type of performance. That guy's got some range. He's also young, and I believe he's British, but I don't know. I think having an Indian, I say Indian American, that's not right. British Indian James Bond could work really well.
Well, it would be Dev Patel if that happened, but
yeah, probably. Yeah. But I think this guy should be on the list.
Your movie on Productions.
And then the other members of the cast we haven't gotten to are Elizabeth Debicki and Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah,
Elizabeth Debicki, beautiful woman, a very talented actress. But I just am curious: has anyone actually seen her and Slender Man in the same room at the same time?
Savage. No, I like that she's so tall on this. I think that's cool that they let her tower over Branagh. I think that's fun.
Like, oh, I'm being so mean to her. She'll be fine. Like, she can handle a slight dig from a hideous little troll like myself.
Every time she's on screen, I'm always trying to stand up as straight as possible in my chair.
She has my favorite stupid moment of this movie, which is when they're talking about the bomb that will destroy everything in existence, and she says, "Including my son." It's just like, yeah, he's part
No,
of it.
he's gonna make it. He's gonna be the new Adam.
It's like you. I mean, if we didn't have that guy named protagonist, then it wouldn't feel maybe quite as clunky. Like we're turning to the face the camera to be like, and remember the emotional stakes.
Remember in No Time to Die, when James Bond goes back to MI6, and there's that great scene. I've seen this in like Tomb Raider, where he introduces himself to the receptionist, and the receptionist has like a big reaction, like, "What? James Bond?" There should have been a scene where the protagonist goes to like the CIA, and he's at the receptionist desk, and he's like, "And what's your name?" And he goes, "The protagonist," and the guy's like, "What?"
I mean, playing it up would have helped, like, or it would have given it some purpose or something like.
Well, I mean, like if we can live with characters called the Batman and the Riddler, I can personally handle the protagonist, but that's just me.
But the Batman and Riddler don't have to deal with all this time travel bullshit on top of everything else. That's already making it a little hard to connect on a visceral level to what the hell's going on.
Yeah, we need to bring back Nolan to do a Batman movie with time travel in it.
I don't think you could keep time travel out of it if you did force him back. Like,
yeah.
At gunpoint, you could not get him to take time travel out of it at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I could swing with the protagonist being like his code name or some bullshit like that, but that's not how it's presented.
I thought that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That when she's talking about like we'll need a new protagonist, like that's sort of like it's supposed to be like CIA lingo for like the lead agent on this like undercover operation. That is not either established well enough. I mean, it's not. Even if you establish it better, it's not worth it. Just don't. Just as I said, just go ahead and fuck off with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose, but I can roll with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I cannot roll with it.
There are some movies that I do dislike. We just never talk about them.
I'm sorry you're on the ones where I complain about Nolan movies, Brad. Like this and Dark Knight Rises, the two that I really don't like. I like all the other ones, but these are the two that piss me off. And this one doesn't even have Bane in it. This one just has, things that piss me off.
Kenneth Branagh did need that
Pattinson
Bane
and Washington.
They're good. They're no Bane. They're
Yeah, there's only one Bane.
There's only one Bane. Well, there's that other guy that played Bane, but we don't talk about that.
Oh, G. Swanson.
G. Swanson.
Yeah. High five across the internet.
Yes, okay. John and I raced to try and get it out first. Jeep race. All right.
His name is
on the Tenet episode. It was a race against time.
I mean, what this movie proves, though, is that it takes more than just a gas mask to make a Bane. You can't just...
Yeah, this should be lousy with Banes if it were that easy. Let's
talk about some.
Let's talk about Branagh.
Oh, Branagh, yeah,
the last one of the cast that I think I enjoy this performance. This is in his wheelhouse. This is just the kind of thing you want him doing.
Yeah, he did a Russian in that Chris Pine Jack Ryan movie, didn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I heard.
Probably not like this. I'm guessing it was. No. Yeah.
It's the type of a performance though that it's like, it's a good Bond villain performance, but it's also like, why do you get like a famously British person to this? Like there aren't any Eastern European-ish actors that you can like go to for this. Well, it's not the most complicated role in the world.
Work with the same guys, and he had Branagh in Dunkirk.
Right?
And I think you want an outsize accent that draws attention to itself for a role like this, for a Bond villain. Well, like this guy is such a Bond villain. Like he's doing all the Bond villain things. Before I kill you, Mr. Protagonist, I will first show you what a good host I can be. All that shit, He
invites him to dinner and then threatens him with a gruesome, torturous death.
Yeah,
and then he doesn't eat. Cut off your balls. Protagonist doesn't eat, and then he leaves.
And then he takes him boating.
Yeah, then he takes him boating.
Yeah, like speed sailing, like drag sailing, whatever the hell that's called. Catamarans. I don't. There's probably a word for
triremes. Yeah, I don't know. It looked.
Yeah, it was fun. Something like the movie steps into Waterworld territory for a minute.
And it almost feels like there's only reason to have that scene on that speeding mechanical boat is just like, well, we got a lot of exposition here. and we can't have that exposition be legible. So
don't want you to hear any of that.
We don't have a reason for them to wear gas masks, so let's have them shout over some ocean spray the entire time into lavalier mics. What the?
Have you ever
what is
seen
going
it?
on with this movie?
Have you seen it in closed captioning?
I
No.
should have turned that on. No.
I thought about it.
That's how I've watched it every single time I've watched it. I never watched it without the closed captioning. But it's funny. There are a couple scenes. It's during the Freeport exposition dump where
great.
In the closed captioning it says inaudible dialogue.
That makes sense.
God.
I mean, honestly, I thought about turning closed captioning on, but it felt like it would be cheating a little bit. Like I had heard so much about like what a trial this was to like follow everything in the theater, and I thought I should at least try that.
I think you're right. I think you got to get the just complete like impossibility of understanding this film on your first.
It's part of the experience.
Yeah, like first time you watch it, you got to be just confused.
Headspace.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very important part of the Tenet experience. Yeah, but I will say, second time through, I was like, okay, I get everything now. I basically get what's going on as much as I need to. This is very much a movie where it's just like, yeah, you get the gist. It's enough, which is something Nolan does that I do not love.
Yeah, well, it's annoying in that the Q, Clemens Posey at the beginning, the scientist, sort of like tells him at one point, underlines it, like, don't think too hard about it, just like feel it through it. And it's like, okay, if that's your route, I mean, I understand you're talking to us through the screen here, but if that's the thing, if we don't think too hard about all this exposition because you don't really need it, whatever, then don't pour so goddamn much of it in. Like there's so much extra plot in this, and you're explicitly telling us at points like, yeah, don't worry about following all of it. Well, then just don't show it. Don't tie these extra knots in the Michael Caine stuff. Like,
yep. This is worrisome to me about Nolan. I don't know. I mean, I think this one was kind of maybe his first, not a huge success. It still did just fine, all things considered. Still made a decent amount of money in the pandemic and all, but I don't know. This kind of was. It seems like the first time people were just like, "Hey, maybe a little less of this shit, huh, Nolan?" At least in reviews that I saw, like this was not as beloved as most of his films are. And
the bloom came off the rose to some extent there. So like maybe just not having Batman movies for long enough meant that like the cult of Nolan was not quite as fervent.
He was due for a misstep, and maybe he'll take some lessons from this and do something a little less indulgent. But I don't know.
That's what Oppenheimer sounds like.
Yeah,
because I don't know how they could, unless they include some sort of time travel component. But one thing they pointed out,
I mean, Dunkirk sounded pretty straightforward too, but he found a way to make that like a little extra difficult.
Right. It's funny they mention Oppenheimer in this movie. So is that part of the shared Nolan canon? Do they exist in the same Tenet universe, or is there like a multiverse?
Oh man, if Oppenheimer is a stealth sequel to Tenet, I don't know if I don't know if I love that or hate that.
It would have to be both a sequel and a prequel, right?
Right. Well, John David Washington shows up, I don't know how it works. Maybe it works like that. Maybe he can just continually go back in time forever. That would.
Well, Robert Pattinson goes back in time quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's part of that commando unit.
Yes, at the Opera House in the beginning, he's there.
Exactly.
Right. Which leads me. Okay, you know what? Actually, but I want to hit this point before we move on to like reveals and time travel.
Yeah.
But you're right when you're talking about how this, was not as well received, where people were kind of pushing back against the indulgences. I think that makes an interesting point in the Nolan-oscopy, where it feels like there's a bit of a temporal pincer movement going on, where Tenet represents Nolan. Like his storytelling and scripting, which used to be very airtight in part, like going back to Memento, like that was what he was best at, seems to have gotten away from him a bit. Like this has crossed over some threshold into complete incomprehensibility here. He's talking back. So the script is more incoherent than ever. On the other hand, his action filmmaking, which was always a liability in the Batman movies, and even in Inception, has gotten to the point where now I'm like totally stoked to watch a car chase for them or a fist fight. They're awesome in this movie.
Yeah, there's a sense of stakes, like that scene where he's like he has to steal the plutonium from the truck, and they have to surround it with other vehicles. So
Yeah.
the truck can't stop, and they have to push it along the freeway while he swings over on a ladder and has to blow the roof and get inside. And yeah, that stuff is really exciting. And it's not like wire fu. Like they shot it all,
Yeah.
at least I think so. They shot it all practically.
I do love
There's
that
a
about
lot
it.
of like practical stunts in the movie that just they have a more they have more impact than like if they had done it all, with CGI. So that's one thing that I like about it is just how rooted the action feels in like a recognizable reality, even though all the science fiction stuff is pretty bananas.
Yeah, and even compared to Inception, the in terms of like action filmmaking, like for all this sci-fi bullshit that Tenet's pouring on top of everything, like there are still actual or quote unquote real people shooting real bullets at them in the
Mm-hmm.
action sequences, whereas Inception could like do the hallway fight, which looks weird, like unique and all that,
Mm-hmm.
but still in most of the Inception action sequences, we have antagonists that are explicitly like projections, not real people shooting not real bullets that won't actually kill the people if they hit them. It'll just wake them up or whatever. And so, yeah, the having them actually hanging off of ladders on speeding cars and actually flying up the side of buildings is also, just feels more real and tactile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of credit for this has to go to Hoyt van Hoytema, who is his new
Sure.
director of photography, who did Interstellar, Dunkirk, and Tenet, and the three best looking Nolan films, I think. Although Dark Knight is up there, but
Yeah.
those movies, those solve the action sequences, I think, in a way that he didn't have them before. A good partnership. I'm not saying Hoyt van Hoytema did it, but I think he's definitely improved in that way. And yeah, I think when it comes to the kind of movies he's making now, which certainly in the case of a film like Tenet, they are event movies for adults. That's sort of the veneer on
Yeah.
top of them. Marvel movies for mature audiences, if you will. That's
That's a
great.
little bit of what the promise of James Bond is,
Yeah.
although hit
Yeah.
and miss with that series throughout the decades.
And it is it's something not a lot of people are doing right now. So thank God he is one of the few that is allowed to do it.
Yeah,
And
keeping that flame.
that's cool because you don't want everything to look like Marvels. And he's kind of in the pocket there for that. And I mean, I don't know what that leaves Oppenheimer. That could very much be his Mank. In the end, I'm not sure what that movie will be like. I'm interested to see what he does with it. But yeah, I don't know. Do I just want to see him do a Bond movie at this point? Am I kind of tired of his indulgences and his bullshit? And I mean, I guess we just did watch him do a Bond movie.
Yeah, that's what this felt
Yeah.
like to me. Like this to me, it made me finally understand what people were talking about when they said, "Oh, no one should do a Bond movie." Like, oh yeah, he could do an awesome one. I wasn't really convinced of that previously, but it doesn't make me want to see him go do one now because I feel like I now have seen it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's accurate.
I would just be hoping for a version of Tenet without all the bullshit. Is kind of what I would want from the Nolan Bond film. It wouldn't even have to change that much. Just get rid of the bullshit, and you have an excellent Bond film here.
Can we talk? Yeah. Let's talk a little more about some bullshit though.
Yes, okay.
Because this is the thing
it is a movie about bullshit. So yes,
buckle up.
So I don't know if this is a thing for like, do I just watch too many movies or anything, but I felt like very strongly like, okay, in 2020, are we still we're doing a time travel movie? Are we still just playing it straight? Like that it's somebody shows up in a time travel movie, a mysterious figure with their face obscured, and we're gonna have a reveal that that's a main character coming back in time later on. And like, I was supposed to be surprised by that revelation, right?
Yeah, the revelation is that Robert Pattinson was recruited in the future by the protagonist because at the climax of the movie, the protagonist finds out that he's only done the forward moving portion of the pincer movement. So now he's going to build out the commando unit that will then go back in time and do the inverted version of the pincer movement. And Pattinson, I believe, is going at the end of the movie, he's going back in time now to save the protagonist in the opera house.
Yeah.
So that's the big twister-rooney at the end is the character that he is rescued by at the beginning was actually the character that he would recruit in the future. So
yeah, and he also saves him and dies in the final raid. Again, he saves him, but he takes the bullet for him. So he's going back knowing he's going to die. Which, yeah, okay, like, but it's not just that. It's 3 different times this movie, and this honestly, I started thinking about this. It's a time travel movie trope, but it's also like a Nolan thing. Like, is there a Nolan movie that doesn't have like a twist at some point that's like, oh, so and so that we saw earlier is actually so and so as a twist? Like outside of Insomnia, maybe, but like Following is sort of all about people play different identities, and the main like burglar being the guy who's actually the protagonist thinks he's setting up somebody else, but he's actually being set up by the other guy, and he's actually like the boyfriend. It doesn't matter. Following, nobody's seen it. We don't have to worry about that. Memento has the thing of like how Leonard Shelby is actually Sammy Jenkins. Right. Like in those earlier scenes, we thought we were watching the Sammy Jenkins thing, but maybe he's actually him. Begins obviously has Merle Ducard being Ra's al Ghul. The Prestige has everything. Has both actually everything. The Prestige has everything with Fallon.
Yeah. And
also, there's the thing of like the mysterious wealthy Duke or whatever is actually Hugh Jackman. And then The Dark Knight has Commissioner Gordon going undercover as the driver in the in the gas mask.
That's the weakest one, but technically, sure, yes, okay.
Yeah, sure.
And then Talia is actually
Talia's in Dark Knight. Inception doesn't have it exactly, but there's so much stuff about like Tom Hardy's wearing other faces.
There's plenty of identity stuff in the Inception.
Like learning about who Mal actually is, and that she's a dead wife ghost or whatever, and
of course,
like it has shades of that. Interstellar has the the ghost was actually Matthew McConaughey all along. Even like Dunkirk has like the French kid reveal, sort of being like, oh, our lead was supposed to be an English soldier, but he's actually a French soldier.
Yeah,
maybe a French civilian. Who knows?
Yeah, it's possible that Nolan is just a really big fan of Scooby-Doo. And
well, yeah, because Tenet has 3 Scooby-Doos. Everybody does it. Like it. Okay.
Yeah, they do it with the protagonist where he finds out that he battles himself.
Which again is the type of thing I can play. Like, okay, like as soon as that guy pops out in a like with his face completely covered, I'm like, well, I just assume that that's him from the future fighting himself, and nobody ever like raises that as a possibility, even when they're these are the time travel experts trying to plan intricate time heists by utilizing these time travel rules, and it like doesn't show up. Even Elizabeth Debicki has that thing of like, I saw a woman, a mysterious shadow woman diving off a yacht, and then we get that thing that's now I'm recognizing as like a Nolan staple of the sort of like silent cutaway to like that is along the lines of like naming the hero protagonist. It's like just a big flashing thing of like, file this away for a third act reveal for later, please. We're going to show you, Michael Caine silently having wine at this cafe. We're going to come back to that later. We're going to show you Leonardo DiCaprio looking for his kids over and over again. Like, this is going to be a thing.
Well, is this just like our big dumb movie brains like are seeing the narrative that that is being created for a general audience more clearly? I mean, is this the curse of watching too many goddamn movies? Is this
and watching all the Nolan movies in a row doesn't help.
Oh well, that's for sure.
Spotting these patterns.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about this movie. It really, it's a sour note to end on Nolan with. Like, for me, it really is just like, I didn't mean all that shit. Really, like it's just kind of a bag of tricks. That's the reveal of Tenet. Is all his peccadillos kind of amount to the same thing, and that's kind of infuriating because I've really enjoyed all these movies as we've gone through them, and I don't know. This film has a way of reducing it all so much, and making it schematic and repetitive, and usually I like seeing these things like, oh, he's doing that thing again, more dead wife, and then this one is kind of just like, well, I guess we're just gonna do this again. But yeah, he's a protagonist. What else do you need? Nothing really. You don't really have to pay attention to this stuff. It's fine. And this is why this movie bugs me so much.
I will point out that it is kind of funny that it's like a thinking man's action movie, but then it also tells you not to think about things.
Yeah, you can't do those both at once. I don't think.
Yeah.
But I took that advice to heart. It really just was like, okay, I don't care. And I the parts I like, I think are great, and I want to stick with that. But
Yeah, the first 29 times I watched it, I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. But then the 30th time, it all clicked into place, and I was like, this is what he's been building towards.
But the other thing that there's two overlapping questions here about like just this sort of reveal of, oh, it's actually that person is. There's the general movie brain thing we talked about, Ebert's law of economy of characters, which is there's a mystery figure in a movie that's cast really only goes like 3 or 4 people deep. There's not a lot of like possible resolutions to that mystery.
Right.
So that it jumps out immediately as like, okay, that's obviously going to be one of the 2 main people in this movie. And when there's only one main one in this movie, and particularly when it's a woman that you could identify in silhouette from 3 counties over, like there's not much mystery there. But this goes back to something I was complaining about with Interstellar too, is that there's the other layer of it, which is like, yeah, maybe some of this is just like, okay, you're congratulating yourself too much for having movie brain and like getting ahead of movie structure, but it's also when when the characters are supposed to be like at the bleeding edge of these fields, like the scientists who are trying to solve space-time problems, or the people who are trying to construct their own backwards time travel heist maneuvers,
right?
Like by counter moving against other backwards time travelers. Like it strikes me that these things these should at least be occurring to them as possibilities, and the fact that nobody's like raising those possibilities, like, is Elizabeth Debicki surprised to see herself pulling up in the boat at the end? Like, does she realize when she's going on the boat with Hamish Patel, like, oh yeah, I must be the diving woman? Or does she suddenly realizing it after she killed him, like, oh, that was me all along? Like, you had time to think this through, and you had to think this through in very minute detail to pull any of it off.
Yeah, she's plotting his murder. Like, I didn't catch that the first time. She's like totally setting up what she's going to do.
Yeah, she puts the suntan lotion on the deck.
Yeah, so she's definitely thought it through. Yeah, like I thought that was a spur of the moment decision when I originally saw it. It was like, no, she's definitely gonna screw with the plan.
Yeah, because she's part of the pincer where like they have to disable the algorithm in the hypocenter before she can finish him off. Because if she kills him before they disable the bomb, then like in Spawn, the bomb will go off. So she knew what she'd signed up for.
There's also just this is where I checking out of the movie really helps, because going into that third act big temporal pincer action sequence, there are such enormous leaps that these characters are making to set that up.
Yeah,
like they just infer that, oh, okay, he probably has a dead man switch on him, and he's probably planning to kill himself, and it's probably at this particular moment.
Yeah,
which also is a thing that I don't. There's a couple of things that don't quite hold together for me in this, even with just writing off a lot of technical stuff. But one, like the conceit here is right. Okay, Kenneth Branagh is going to go back in time to the Vietnam vacation,
the happiest
in order to kill himself
been.
there.
Yes,
because that was the happiest he's been. Except that didn't that vacation end with her like storming off and being furious at him, and like wasn't that not a happy vacation actually?
Well, everything leading up to that was happy.
The happiest he's been.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's not great. It's not great.
Just going back to that, like knowing what comes after that with him, and that he ends up shooting her later in his timeline, like does going back to that moment really do anything? Like I don't know. Does it recreate that moment? I don't think so. Anyway,
right? Yeah.
we have to go accept that, I guess, as a thing. But it's just an enormous leap for these characters to make, and then to like plan everything around, like having no confirmation about any of his mindset. It's just like, I bet he's thinking this.
It also bothers me that she jumps the gun on the flare going off, and confirmation that they have indeed stopped the world from imploding, including her son. Just for
she established that she knew her son would die.
Yeah. She's like, I don't want to wait 5 minutes. This sucks. I'm just gonna kill you now. And I'm just like, well, it seems ginned up. Seems kind of like very much not the entire point of what you're doing here. But okay, fine. I don't even know what it buys. I don't know what that. Why is that a problem? Is it just to create fake tension?
Yes. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like when he's reaching for the loop to drop the bomb down the thing. It's all just there to just, stretch out that moment. And
again, shades of Interstellar, that they're trying to gin up some tension with like Topher Grace and Casey Affleck.
Right, yeah.
They're gonna fight each other or something. Like, but here's another question for you. Okay, so Kat knows that that Brana's dying of inoperable cancer, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so he's going to be dead in, I don't know, a matter of weeks, months, but she still attempts to murder him on the boat. The sailing ship sequence where she like unhooks this thing and jumps in the water.
She's mad at him.
Yeah, I don't get why she does that.
I've never been married. But,
I don't understand why he ignores it too. I mean, I guess he has greater plans, but like,
he's mad later that night at her, but not even, doesn't even seem like it's really about that.
No.
Another thing where I watched that scene twice, didn't catch at all what she says to him as she's unhooking it. So, I mean, I imagine it's some variation on fuck yourself.
She's like, consider it a divorce. And then.
Yeah, I mean, it might as well be. It's okay. Okay. But here's the big thing that has the potential, I think, to sort of ruin the whole movie for me. But I have to ask now. Okay. How is any of this supposed to work? Like,
in real life?
No, not in real life. Not in real life. I'm talking about in internal consistency within this movie. What the future is planning to destroy the past. I don't understand how that's supposed to work.
I think it's explicitly Sator's plan. I think
it is.
I think so.
No. Okay, no. The future wants to destroy the past because we fucked up the climate.
Well, that makes no sense.
That's established.
That
right?
makes no fucking sense.
That's
what
I'm saying.
What it is like they've inherited all of our lame popular culture, and they're just like, we need to control, alt, delete all of this.
Yeah, it's Ready Player One future. The way it works.
Still at a loss.
The only way it works for me is if it's Brana's act of madness and bitterness and just like fuck the world. That's the only way it works. And
But why is the future abetting him?
Is it something that was created with the weird nuclear radioactive something, whatever happened with the algorithm at Stalag, wherever he found it as a younger man? Is that he discovered this, right? I mean, it was a naturally occurring, not naturally occurring, but like, he's...
Yeah, the future people put time capsules.
But is he not the future person?
No, he's not a future person.
I don't think, no, because he gets killed in Vietnam.
Yeah, he finds.
But that's his inverted version.
Younger.
Who knows how many times he's still back and forth.
Well, he still only gets as far into the future as wherever he got into the turnstile to go back to Vietnam.
God damn it, we're playing their game now. This is what happens.
So here's the thing. I kind of like this explanation where when they're talking about the grandfather paradox, and like why, because this is the tough thing when you're trying to plot out this conceit of a war between the future and the past, is the grandfather paradox, and why, like, if they kill us, like, how are they going to survive? Because they need us to get them there. And Pattinson just says it doesn't matter how it would work. It just matters that they think it will work. And
that's what's dangerous about it. Is like you're dealing with a villain that has a difference of opinion about something very important, like the existence of everything. So
I do like that.
So that's an okay thing. But then the conceit that, as I understood it, was that they're setting up Brana and prodding him along to set the algorithm to destroy the past in order to avert this climate catastrophe that they're mad about. But if they don't think that killing their grandfathers will result in them not existing anymore, how do they think killing their grandfathers will result in the climate being better?
Well, they won't. They won't pollute.
Maybe it's just petty revenge. Maybe it's just like, fuck those guys. Fuck those guys. I guess much.
That's what it has to
be. They're basically vengeance.
Yeah, they are vengeance. Okay. God damn it.
Okay. Look, it doesn't make any sense. I just think that Robert Pattinson and Washington are very pretty, and they run around shooting guns and flying up the side of buildings. It's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, here's what I will say about this. After I saw it one time, I was like, fuck that movie completely. I'm no on that movie. Very much no. I would never have watched this again if we were not doing the Nolan-oscopy. I would have been like, I hate that film. And watching it now for a second time, I did enjoy myself a lot more. It did not infuriate me. I kind of enjoyed the ways that I thought it was bad. But I was also able to appreciate the good things and some of the larger goals that it does accomplish, and the performances. They're very good movie star performances, pretty much everybody. And, I did not have a bad time watching Tenet this second time. It improved quite a bit the second time, knowing what was coming, kind of like an inverted watch of the film in some ways.
The problem with this movie is that it's a kick-ass like action spy movie wrapped in a pretty crappy time travel bullshit movie.
How many times have we said bullshit in this episode? It's got to be a record. No, it is Tenet.
So somebody go back and count.
All right.
That's
it. That's Tenet.
That's Tenet.
We're wrapping up the Nolan-oscopy. We're going to come back, John and I, and do some rankings and look back. What have we learned by traveling this far up the bull's ass? But we have one more piece of business that Brad needs to help us with. Brad, if you could open up your email to the email chain we used to set this up.
Sure.
It is our tradition that the guest on the last film of the series picks our director for the next one. I sent you a short list to make the decision a little faster.
Dear Brad, I hope this email finds you well.
That's from you in the future. Don't go past that.
I'm going to have to go because...
Oh, read them out. There's 5.
Oh, sure. Okay, so we have Terry Gilliam, Michael Mann, the Coen brothers, Martin Scorsese, although there's a typo in his last name, and James Cameron.
Thank you for mentioning.
Now, I personally, because it's coming out this Christmas, I would pick James Cameron, but again, it's up to you. I think that would probably be one where you'd have some of the most interesting opinions from people. The other directors, I feel like you kind of all would be like a mutual admiration society, but I think Cameron's a little bit more divisive, a little bit more.
I think Gilliam and Mann have more of a mixed bag.
For sure.
Although maybe there won't be dissent among like us on which ones are the good ones, which ones are the bad ones. All right. I mean, I think it's going to be a race for us to try. Cameron's got quite a few to get through.
Less than the rest of those. I mean, he's got 8 movies, something like that.
With Cameron though, would you do Piranha 2?
Of course, you would have to. Yeah. Yeah.
Starting off strong.
All right. Is that
you would have to do it with? Are you volunteering to do it with us?
No, I would be down for T2 or Avatar.
One of the good ones, yeah. Of course.
Oh, you coward! Should have known, Brad. Afraid of piranhas.
I saw Piranha 2, and it was a journey.
Somebody will want to do Piranha 2. We'll get June to do Piranha 2. Somebody will come in for Piranha 2. So that's it then. It's James Cameron. Surprise. Okay, cool.
Going from Piranha 2 to Avatar 2 that's going to be an arc.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. That's
all right. Looking forward to it.
Yep. All right. That's the one then. Thank you for joining us, Brad, and thank you for setting us on the course that will take us through 2022. Very exciting.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. You
didn't realize that you were recruiting us for the next program.
Wait, I've known you guys for how long?